G'day guys, Graham from Great Off-Road Adventures here. Today we're down at Henderson Mechanical Services and we're doing a service on the 200 series. Now if you watch the Jurien Bay trip, on that trip I hit 200,000 Ks on the car, so time for a service, and we'll show you just exactly what goes into keeping my car in tip-top mechanical condition and why I use Henderson Mechanical Services. Alright, morning, how are you?
Yeah, good.
200,000 K service today, mate. Got the Cruiser here. What are we going to look at doing?
Oh, look, I think first thing we'll get the car in, we'll get it up in the air and actually see what it does need. We'll have a look at the logbook. I know in the logbook it suggests possibly changing the vacuum pump, 200,000 kilometres. Seen these cars do a lot greater than that and never had to be replaced. So at 200,000 there might be some other issues your car needs. Let's get it in and see what it actually does need this time.
Alright, so we'll go off what the car's sort of suggesting it wants doing rather than what the logbook.
Exactly. The vehicle at this stage of 200,000 is out of warranty.
Yeah, exactly. 10 years old.
So yeah, let's do what your money's best spent on as such rather than what it tells us.
Cool. I'll bring it in, stuck in then.
No worries.
First thing we did was get the vehicle up on the hoist. I had a quick look around underneath whilst Mike set to removing the bash plates. After removing the bash plates, we got right into the service. We dropped the engine oil first, then the oil filter. Nice messy job.
There is an easier way to do that.
That wasn't the way then, was it?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so you can tell a lot from a car engine by the oil filter. Don't assume that you just replace it and chuck it in the bin. Always get the filter. If it's a cartridge, it's quite easy to look at. If it's a spin-on, take the time to cut it open and have a look. I usually get a light or hold it up to the sun, have a look in the element, make sure there's no metal filings. If there is, you've got problems and you need to go further.
How's my one look?
Perfect, 200,000 kilometres on this 200 series. Always had the correct engine oil and full synthetic, and this engine looks in good health. Okay, Graham, one thing we have found servicing Toyotas is to only ever use an aluminium factory Toyota sump plug washers because the full fibre have had a tendency to come loose and even leak. Very important.
So both of these are genuine Toyota sump plug washers. The one on the left is fully fibrous and the one on the right is an alloy with fibrous coating. What this means is the alloy sump plug washer can't compress and thus the sump plug can't lose tension and come loose, which will one cause a leak, or two, the sump plug could actually come out entirely, losing your oil all over the place. So this is an important point to note if you're servicing your vehicle at home. It's always important to remember to put engine oil back in. After replacing the filter and sump plug, we refilled the engine with 9.5 litres of Castrol 5W40 fully synthetic diesel engine oil. This is what the car's run on for the last 10 years and has been very successful. Due to the addition of extra accessories under the bonnet, it can get a little bit tight and tricky, as we're finding out now with the genuine fuel filter.
This filter's been in the vehicle for 10,000 kilometres. I believe there's no interval on this model 200 series. I personally like to do them every 20,000. For this exercise, we're changing it out after 10. You can see it's not too bad. It's always a good idea to take the tin canister out of the bottom. You'll find there'll be a lot of sediment still built up in that tin canister. Remove the whole canister and give it a good clean before you install the new filter. So, new versus old.
There's a bit of gunk in that old one, but it's not the worst I've seen out there. If you do a bit of time on social media, you see a lot worse than that. Let's have a look.
So you can see the build up. This has got no bubbles, which you would say which would be the water, but a little bit of matter in the bottom of that. It's only after 10,000. We usually experience a little bit more than that.
Given that the second filter was changed at the last service, we're not going to change it today, but we're just going to lift it up and inspect the glass bowl at the bottom, ensure there's no water or anything in it.
Okay, you can see this is quite clean. This is the primary filter. As you can see here, this is a 30 micron, so this must go in before the Toyota filter. If you see any sediment, quite easily can be drained from the bottom of this and re-bled from the factory Toyota side.
But no issues today, so
we'll put this one back in today.
Back in. After inspecting the pre-filter, we decided we'd reroute the fuel lines to prevent them getting kinked against the firewall, like this picture shows.
Okay, so here after the fuel filter replacement, very simple to bleed these up. The lift pumps on these have a little hand primer on the top. So the best procedure I've found, without any fancy tools, is just to remove the outlet hose off the top of the filter housing. Pump up the hand primer until you're getting diesel coming out of there, and slip the hose back on and complete the prime. That way you're not pushing any air into the engine anywhere. So as you can see here, we've just got a stream of diesel coming out after priming it up. You can slip the hose on and we're done.
On my car, because of the secondary fuel filter and third battery, my catch can is mounted behind the bull bar here, so it's actually rigged up to drain without having to remove this plate, but we're just going to remove it to inspect and make sure it's all okay, drain the catch can. And Mike will explain why to fit a catch can, and you'll have heard it from me before as well.
Yeah, very important on these new, lower emission common rail diesels. The engine oil burns back through the intake with a little pipe that goes back onto the induction, and it seems to pull a lot of engine oil through, and it carbons up the intake manifold dramatically. Causes low power, heat, all sorts of problems. So simple exercise, fitting a catch can can prevent all that.
Yeah, we've done it before. I only got my catch can on quite recently, I guess, in the last 30,000 Ks, and that's one of the jobs I had Mike do, is to clean the intake manifold. Well, that's the contents of the catch can there. It's actually quite a bit. Just use the fuel filter.
Oh, nice clean gear oil there, Graham.
Great. So every service you recommend checking all the gear oils, DRIVELINE oils?
Absolutely, and don't go off Toyota recommendation every 40. Take time to have a look. Sometimes with the type of forward driving, if you have any water crossings or water entries, they'll need doing more regularly. So definitely check them every service regardless.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
From previous experience, this is the most important one on Graham's car to check.
Yeah, we'll cover that off I guess at the end when we talk about what issues I've brought into the workshop.
Perfectly clean. I'll just replace that washer and we're good to go. Okay, so the front diff sometimes, well, my finger especially is a bit big to get in the hole to check the oil. It's not coming out, so a bit of a makeshift dipstick here just to just to ensure we have the level quite right. Oil's nice and clean. It is down probably a couple of 100 mils, so we're going to correct that level. Nice and clean. So we've got ease to the uni joint grease nipples. You'll have a hard time accessing these grease nipples if the vehicle's on the ground trying to roll it forward and back. So this is what we do, and also take the opportunity to make sure the uni joint is in good condition, not just put grease in it and assume. Slip joints, be careful of the slip joints not to over grease. This can only cause a hydraulicing in the shaft fault, so generally half a pump to one if it requires any at all.
Yep. And then obviously uni joints both ends of the shafts. Are there any other grease nipples we should be looking for?
No, we usually grease the steering stops in the front of the 200, but these are pretty limited. All the rod ends and everything like that are service free.
Yep. And then on my car in particular, we've obviously got the upper control arms.
There's exactly. As a non-genuine item, they would need to be greased, yep. Yes.
And we've got the ball joints there on the upper control arms that we just got the grease nipples on.
Alright, that's the car greased up. As I was talking earlier, the steering stops. On full lock, especially going over curbs, you can hear a bit of a grinding noise. The grease doesn't seem to last long. We always just seem to put a little bit on there.
And for someone, like me who carries grease at home and whatnot, that's something they can just do periodically between services if they're noticing an issue.
As we're going through all the wheels here, having a good look, take this opportunity to have a look at the wheels. We always pick the best two tyres, always put them to the front, that's the safest option. You can tell a lot by the tyres. This suspension looks like it's working good, and wheel alignment must be correct. The outer edges aren't rounded off and it's not sculpting the tyres. Back ones are flattened off. I think it's probably best to put the back on the front, and we'll chuck them on the balancing machine and check that they're correct before we do so. So here we're just about to adjust the park brake shoes. They sit as inner shoes in this rear brake disc. What we do, pull the little grommet out of the inspection hole. It's usually just down the bottom. You'll find the adjuster wheel. Have a little look with the light and you'll be able to see it in there to get an idea of what's going on. What we're going to do is just adjust this wheel, flicking it in an upward motion until the shoes take up, back it off a couple of clicks. That's all it needs.
That's quite a lot of adjustment there.
Off a couple of clips. As long as you turn your disc, it's not dragging. You can sometimes hear it, that's quite normal. That'll be a lot better park brake feel now, that's simple. Just a touch base on these rear brakes on these Land Cruisers. They do go for a long time, but they have a tendency to dramatically wear out if you're doing beach driving in the sand or in the mud, and they seem to drag the mud through the shoes and the pads, so definitely check it every time you're servicing your vehicle. That's a must. Alright, spot on 40. Generally on these four-wheel drives we'll run 40 psi front and rear. This one's running 42 in the back. It's carrying a little bit of weight, and the tyres seem to be wearing perfectly from that. It's always had that, so we're sticking to it.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. So we're changing the pollen filter on the 200 series. Very important that the unit is set to recirc position to gain access. Without that you won't get access to the pollen filter. So we're just going to slip that out, inspect, clean or replace. Not the worst pollen filter we've seen, but this one definitely needs a clean, if not replace. I'll see if we've got one. I think we'll put a new one in this.
Yep. Tip in regards to the pollen filter is when you do a water crossing, make sure you've got your aircon set to recirculate. I've only done it once. I've done a deep water crossing. I had the aircon set to fresh air. The water's come up over the bonnet to the windscreen. The vents on the bottom of the windscreen is where the water comes in. The water's come in through there, drenched my pollen filter, and then the excess actually run out and down onto my passenger's feet. So something to keep in mind, try and set your aircon to recirculate before you go and do a deep water crossing if the water's going to come up over the bonnet.
Just two little locking tags that you have to click down. As simple as that. Once it's complete, just a little cover to put back on. So we're just going to do a scan through all the vehicle's ECUs here to make sure there's no faults that need addressing. Quite often you'll find a lot of unrelated codes. There's no reports of any lights on here, so we shouldn't have a problem.
Well, that's all the servicing done. We're just going to put the bash plates back on and then roll it outside for a clean-up. And I'll grab Mike again and we'll have a chat about what issues I've had with this car and what issues we've noticed this service. So we'll go through it all in detail.
Very basic. What we're going to do here now is just adjust the park brake shoes which sit inside the rear brake rotor. But whilst doing that, Graham and I have noticed just a little bit of oil sitting around in the backing plate, coming around the hub. So it appears that the inner axle seal has a leak on this and it needs to be addressed. We'll look at the front suspension while the wheels are off. Gone through everything else, it looks quite good, but we've got to this upper control arm ball joint, and as you can see, there's an excessive amount of play there. We're going to grease this up now, but this needs changing effective immediately.
Yep. No, that's fine. They've been in now for 50,000 Ks. They're the Super Pro control arms for those that have followed the build and stuff on the 200 series. So something to keep in mind is make sure you always grease them up and keep an eye out for excess play.
This whole joint's got play.
Well, here we are, just picking up the car from Henderson Mechanical Services. 2 weeks on, guys have just done the axle seal leak and upper control arms that we found. So thanks to Super Pro, when I contacted them, they informed me that my ball joints actually were subject to a recall and my bushes were subject to lifetime warranty. So they've actually sent me 2 whole new upper control arms, a new pair, which the guys bolted in over the last day. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and duck inside and grab Mike, and we'll just recap on the service and this axle seal leak, and we'll talk about a few other problems we've had on the car over the life of it. Occasions on the service, and now 2 weeks later we've come in and you've done the axle seal leak for us on the control arms.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy with how the car's come up now.
Yeah.
I know you're heading away. I'm very confident that you'll have no further trouble. So
absolutely, thank you for that.
Yeah, good service for the suspension repair and our left-hand rear axle seal. So as we discussed at the 200,000 kilometres, there's probably some other things we're going to find.
Yep.
We did, and everything's been rectified now.
Awesome, happy days.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've brought in a few issues to the workshop, my transfer case, and we've done a couple steering rack seals and stuff, but by and large, the car's been pretty good. What's your thoughts on that?
Can't go wrong with a Toyota. I know Graham drives them hard, and it's to be expected to have a couple of little issues, but great car, well looked after, and you don't have any troubles.
All right, thanks so much for your time, Mike. Thanks for allowing me to film it. I hope you guys found the video informative. If you did, make sure you like it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.
Cool.
Right.